Hello ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, time for another Metal Earth kit, this time something from the seas, the USS Arizona. This is another requested kit. It's been a little while, so if it's too late I apologize. I get to them as quick as I can, but I'm kind of excited to put this together. I visited the USS North Carolina, another battleship. I'm not sure if it's how similar. I think they may be from the same era. But anyhow, let's open this up and see what's inside. USS Arizona. Inside we have the instructions and two metal sheets. We have two pieces of paper for the instructions. We open up the first. All the way. Open it up all the way. We have the page 1, which is the drawing outline, some information about insertion tabs, folds, and slots, and holes. The usual needle nose pliers are helpful for assembling. We have the legend, the blue circle. If you see that by connection, that means to fold the tab over. The green triangle means to twist it. And then down here we have the layout of the parts. There's that one. And it tells us the part numbers so that when we look in the directions we know what numbers, what parts are what and where they're at. And we have some color coordination, parts that are the same color of the same number and interchangeable. And then page 2 we have the start of the assembly flowchart, beginning with part 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you just follow the arrows and the occasional sub-assembly to put things together. Flip over for 3 and 4, and then we go on to page 2, or not page 2, but the second sheet. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and all done. Some of the tools that I'll use. Pliers. Pliers are very helpful. I have a flat nose set of pliers, and this is from the Fascinations kit. And I have a long needle nose pliers. They can get into a lot of areas and hold on to long parts. These do not have any ridges on the inside, so they do not scratch up the kits as you work with them, and they're spring loaded, which is nice. Side cutters or flush cutters are, in my opinion, essential. You can do these kits without them, but it is so very nice to have something to cut the parts off of the tree nice and quick and even and easy. Tweezers are very helpful. They're very small and easy to manage. They're great for holding on to small parts, great for making small bends, great for twisting and bending some of the tabs. I like to have an assortment of different kinds. I have a fairly normal set of tweezers, a thinner set, and a couple of sets with very pointed ends for getting into very small areas. Round nose or ring pliers are very useful for shaping some of the curved parts. You can just get the metal in between there and just slowly bend it and curve it for all of the odd shaped areas of your kit. There's a number of different things you can use to make these cylinder shaped and round parts. I have a bunch of dowel rods that I've used, a couple of them sharpened for making cone shapes. I've also picked up some step mandrels that have different size round areas, or a very inexpensive drill bit set. This is a set that I got very cheaply that I honestly would never use to actually drill with, but there's a lot of different sizes you can use. A couple of other things I often find useful is a small hobby knife, not for the sake of cutting, but because it's very thin and you can reach in and sometimes pry things apart. Sometimes that is needed, and it's also good for reaching into tight areas and bending over tabs. And then I have a sort of dental pick type tool, which is great for reaching into certain areas and maybe pulling tabs out that have been bent too far, or pushing things in that don't just quite line up, instead of pulling the part apart and making adjustments with pliers. We have our instructions, some metal sheets, some tools. Let's put this together.
This is where, on the kit, tweezers with small tips come in handy. There are several places where there's hardly any room and these tweezers were all that would fit. They require a good grip as close to the tip as you can get, but then they will get the job done. On part 13, I started off using a drill bit to shape the curved sides, but then switched to round nose pliers. It took a long time to get the tabs to the antenna lined up. I am not sure which is tougher, trying to form the round tubes or an oval tube. I mostly went for a round tube with the idea that I could carefully crush it into an oval after it was formed, and it worked okay. With parts 19 and 20, the instructions are helpful on how to shape them, but it also helped a lot to compare it to the side of the deck where they ultimately connect to. This video has been edited. I have not shown all the attempts, adjustment, and retries to get all the parts to fit. I also clip out some repetitive steps. It may make it look like this kit came together easier than it did. Keep in mind there's a lot of bending and adjusting to make parts fit. Work slowly, be patient, and take your time. I strongly suggest bending the guns up one at a time. If you try to bend more than one, you are likely to bend the entire front section back up, and too many bends back and forth and the part breaks. If you can get your fingernail along the edge to hold the front panel down, even better. Since the sides are at an angle, it will help to bend the tabs so that they both point in the same direction towards the next part to line them up with the slots. I elected to shape and attach part 35 before bending down the sides of 34 so that I would have room to twist the tabs. Sometimes I had to use the pointed tweezers to pry out tabs to have enough room to twist them. Shaping the hull is not as hard as it looks. The deck of the ship mostly pulls it together. Be sure to make the connections as secure as you can. The instructions say to start at number 1, which is at the back of the boat, but I missed it and started at the front. It still worked out fine for me. If you start at the bow of the boat like me, be sure to put the first side tab in the furthest most forward bottom slot. The instructions have a tip on them that I find interesting. It says to slightly twist the tabs to hold things together, then go back later and bend the tabs over for a better look. Something I have suggested in a number of my previous videos. This is the first time I have seen this tip on the instructions. I was a bit confused when I went to put the bottom part on. I had missed some tabs that pulled the front and back sections together. I worked hard getting the last tab into place. The tab holding the bottom parts together came undone, but that allowed me to get the tabs lined up, and I went back and repaired the other area.
The USS Arizona, very neat little model, neat little ship, lots of detail. Is it exactly like the actual Arizona? No, not really, but it's about as much detail as I think they can get into it, considering it's a little small metal kit. There's some differences in the way the two little towers here, cables and stuff that run to them, but it's not bad. I really enjoyed putting it together, even though it was frustrating. It was a lot of fun seeing it come together because I have been on a battleship before. It was the USS North Carolina. It was a slightly newer ship and different, but there were a lot of similarities, and it was enjoyable to put this together. I did a little bit of research as to what year this was built. It was the 19-teens. I don't remember exactly. The USS North Carolina was in the 20s. This one had gone through a major upgrade at one point, and I only did a small amount of research. And it, as you may know, is sitting underwater at Pearl Harbor with a memorial on top of it because this ship was sunk during that attack. I knew it wasn't going to be a particularly easy kit. I did not expect these decks up here to be quite as tedious as they were. There was a lot of delicate little work shaping and putting those things together, and it took quite a bit of time. Once I got past that and started doing the deck, it sped up. Another really difficult part, as is often the case, was this bottom section. It was difficult to spread the bottom part of the side of the hull to fit these in without popping the front and back, which I did in both cases, but for the most part repaired them. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them down below. Any requests of builds or kits you would really like to see, leave them as well, and I'll get them as soon as I can. Thank you for watching, and keep on keeping on.